The executable file permission problem. You know how in my production environment on Liquid Web, on their CentOS servers, my PHP scripts need to have execute permission on them. Their file permission has to be execute, especially for the other, okay? So how did I take care of this problem? What I found out is that on my Mac, there is no way for me to set the UMask so that files which are created on my Mac will automatically have execute permission. I have searched Google and I have not found any way to accomplish this. After speaking with Liquid Web support, I came to one conclusion. The conclusion is to use chmod-r plus x asterisk in all the folders where I care to have the files be executable. And that means for all folders except for the vendor folder. Now, once the files are set this way, they're going to stay this way. And that means they're going to stay that way on my Mac, and they're going to stay that way when I do a fetch to my production server for deployment. What I have noticed is that there are some files which end up being executable even if I don't do this. And those are files which were installed by Composer, and for some reason or somehow the author somehow got Composer to give them the executable permission. However, most of these authors don't apply this executable permission enough, at least not enough for the production environment which I operate in. Because on the older systems, the older Unix systems, it used to be that the web server just needed to be able to read the PHP scripts in order to run them. However, on Liquid Web CentOS 6 servers, the PHP files will not be read by the web server if they are not executable. Okay, I didn't apply this policy to the vendor folder. The reason for that is it would have no effect on my production environment, and that's where I really want to have the effect. Because on my virtual machine, it actually doesn't matter what the permissions are, because the shared folder maps to the virtual machine, and the virtual machine just gives all the files and folders whatever permissions it thinks it should give to them. It does this separately from whatever permissions I give to them on the Mac. However, it's not the same with the production environment. Git remembers what permissions I gave to these files. And if I use Git to move these files to my production environment, they're going to end up over there with the same permissions they were on my Mac. Okay? So what am I going to do for the vendor scripts on my production environment? Well, those scripts in the vendor folder are not going to get to my production environment by me using Git, because Git actually excludes the vendor folder. I'm going to have to use Composer to download all the vendor folder files anyways. So after putting all my application on my production environment, I'm going to have to run Composer install to fill up that vendor folder. When I do that, or after I do that, I have to use chmod-r plus x asterisk on the production server for the vendor folder.